What's good with you all today? My name is RayGVT, and today we are back to the Duel Arena to showcase our next featured deck, Armed Dragon Thunderous. If you guys are not familiar, I like to feature certain archetypes, mainly some lower tier ones, and put a spotlight on them here on this channel. This is a series that I've been doing for some time now on my time here on YouTube, but it's a series that I put on hiatus for a while, but I'm glad to say that we are back with a new wave of the series, which I'm calling Archetype Arsenal. A while back, I asked you guys what deck you wanted to see featured on stream and potentially made into a video. The options this time around were between Armed Dragons and Speedroids, and you guys spoke up. So today, I'm going to be taking you guys through my experience of playing this deck, getting familiar with the archetype, and documenting my experience as I gained more of an understanding on how to play said archetype. Let's begin. Armed Dragon is an archetype that was introduced back in the GX days with the set Soul of the Duelist. This set introduced the level archetype and style of play. This is a type of play that involved you having to start with your smaller level 3 monsters and then climbing into your level 5, then 7, and then eventually finishing off with your big level 10 monster. Now this sounds like a cool concept in theory, but in practice, oh boy. Armed Dragons were featured in this set and required the same type of play, starting off with your small Armed Dragon level 3, then going into your level 5, 7, then your level 10. It focused on sending cards from your hand to the grave to target and destroy monsters on the field with attack relative to the monsters sent to the grave. And when you eventually got to your level 10, you could just destroy all face-up monsters regardless of their attack. Again, it sounds cool in theory, but this was just so problematic to actually play. Fast forward to modern day, and Armed Dragons would receive a boost with some new support and a retrain in their playstyle with Blazing Vortex. Released in 2021, this set gave us the Armed Dragon Thunder archetype. Armed Dragons received a power-up in their playstyle, which involved making this process much faster by leveling up your Armed Dragon Thunders quicker in the turn by making them go into the next level by discarding a monster from your hand. Once sent to the grave, each Armed Dragon Thunder has their own effect that activates from there, which can help win back some lost resources. It also helps you get to your ace monster of the deck much faster with Armed Dragon level 10. So essentially, they sped up the deck with some lightning power to help reduce the grind game a bit more. Now, with that description out of the way, let me give you guys my honest thoughts on this deck after playing it. As I do here, this has to be the best, worst deck that I've featured on this channel and series so far. Playing this deck was genuinely painful because trying to satisfy the conditions for this deck to activate properly can be, again, such a grind game. But let me save my personal thoughts for later because first, we have to introduce the actual deck now. As you guys know with these vids, I like to play these decks pretty pure, so I did my absolute best to keep everything in archetype to show you how capable the deck is on its own with little outside help. So the basic game plan for Armed Dragon Thunders is to climb the ladder from level 3 to level 10 as fast as possible. This is easier specifically with the Thunders than the normal Armed Dragons from before. Once our level 10 hits the field, its focus becomes powering up to the max. Its effect will let you reach some real high numbers and then proceed to punch your opponent for game. This is all pretty cool, again, but the catch with all of this is that you need to be able to do all of this and go uninterrupted the entire time, because if you get choked at almost any point, it can be hard to start again and climb back up. Not outright impossible, just really hard. Seriously, the recovery on this deck is horrible. This deck also doesn't have a lot of protection or natural negates, so this one was a little rougher compared to some of the other ones that I've covered before. I'll show you guys exactly what I mean when we get to the duels, so do bear with me. But now, why don't we actually go over the deck? So to start, we have Armed Dragon Thunder level 3. This card is our starter most of the time, and it lets you send this card as well as another monster in your hand to special summon one level 5 or lower Armed Dragon monster from your hand or deck. The target for this will almost always be your Armed Dragon level 5. This is the general flow of how all of the Armed Dragons will work. Once this guy lands at your grave to activate a Dragon monster's effect, you can draw one card. This is very helpful because it lets you recover some lost resources in the climb to the next level. One of my biggest gripes, which I'll expand on later when I share my personal thoughts, is that this deck requires you to go -2 to get to your next level monster, which is just so bad, but we'll talk about that later. Going on, we have Armed Dragon Thunder level 5. You can do the same thing of sending away this card from the field as well as one monster in your hand to special summon a level 7 or lower monster from your hand or grave. When it's sent to the grave to activate a dragon monster's effect, you can add a level 5 or higher wind dragon monster from your deck to your hand. Your target will be Armed Dragon level 7. This card has the same effects to send itself and another monster in your hand to the grave to special summon a level 10 or lower Armed Dragon from your hand or deck. When sent to the grave to activate a dragon's effect, it lets you add one Armed Dragon from your deck to your hand. I usually use this to add the level 10 to my hand or to add one of the spells like Armed Dragon Flash to my hand in case I need to reset next turn. And speaking of, next in is our big boss of the deck with Armed Dragon Thunder level 10. Man, this guy looks so cool. If he was special summoned by the effect of an Armed Dragon monster, which he will always be because this is pure Armed Dragons that we're talking about here, it gains the following effects based on its attack. Effect number 1, its name becomes Armed Dragon level 10. Effect number 2, if it's 10 plus, control of it cannot switch. And effect number 3, if it's 100 plus, it cannot be destroyed by battle. If it's 1000 plus, once per opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can send one card from your hand to the grave, then target one other card on the field and destroy it. And if you do, this card gains 1000 attack. And finally, if 10,000 plus, then once per turn, you can destroy all other cards on the field. This guy is loaded and fully armed to just end your opponent when given the chance. He can reach some insanely high numbers and he's just stacked. This is our big boss of the deck, so obviously he's what we're working towards in that climb. I love this monster so much. If there was one awesome thing that's come from my time and experience with this archetype, it's that I have a new monster to add to my absolute favorites list because look at him! I love it! With the main Armed Thunders out of the way, there are a couple more monsters that definitely help us out. Pyro Armed Dragon is a level 7 dragon that can special summon itself from your hand by sending one other Wind Dragon monster or one other level 7 or higher dragon monster from your hand to the grave. By sending one Armed Dragon monster from your hand or deck to the grave, you can target one face-up monster that you control. That targeted monster gains attack equal to the level of the monster sent to the grave times 300 until the end of the turn. However, the trade-off is that you can only attack with one monster this turn. This guy is great when used alongside your level 10 because you can just boost the level 10 further and up in your punching power when you get the chance to strike. Then we have Armed Dragon level 10 White. It can't be normal or special summoned and can only be special summoned by banishing one Armed Dragon monster from your field and or grave whose total levels equal 10. Once summoned, you can add one White Veil from your deck to your hand. You take no effect damage, and when this card attacks, at the damage step, you can destroy one card on the field. This card is... it's okay. Like, it's kind of whatever to me, really. It's only here to add some extra power whenever it does come up, which isn't very often. However, we only play one copy of these in the deck because it's a bit of a brick otherwise. And it kinda already is anyway. Last of the Armed Dragons, we have Armed Dragon the Armored Dragon. Very original name. This is a level 4 monster, and when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon one level 5 or lower Wind Dragon monster from your hand or deck, except another Armed Dragon Armored Dragon, and it can attack directly that turn. This card is okay. It's useful when it does come up, but I usually just use this for discard fodder most of the time, honestly. Finally, some extra supporting cards. Catapult Turtle is our other level 4 monster in here, and it's great for skipping straight to our Armed Thunder level 5 by tributing a monster which can include itself. Red Eye's Darkness Metal Dragon isn't part of the archetype, but is the only outside piece of support in this deck. You can special summon it easily by banishing one face-up dragon monster that you control. Once per turn, you can special summon one dragon monster from your hand or grave, except another Darkness Metal Dragon. So just like that, you can just summon any dragon monster from your hand or grave. Simple and exactly what we need in here. And finally, one copy of Neos, because I run the Armed Neos fusion in here, but it hardly ever comes up. For spells and traps now, we have Armed Dragon Blitz. This card gets another copy of an Armed Dragon that's either already on your field or in your grave, and lets you either add it to your hand or special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. But it can attack directly. It does lock you into only being able to special summon dragon monsters for the rest of the turn, but that's no problem. Armed Dragon Flash is the most useful spell in here because it allows us an easy way to get our Armed Thunder level 3 if we don't open with it. Or if we did, we can just have one for discard fodder. Armed Dragon Lightning works as a substitute for when your Armed Dragon will be destroyed by banishing it from your grave. It also allows you to target one Armed Dragon monster you control and then activate one of the following effects. Effect number 1, it gains attack equal to its level times 100, and effect number 2, you can add one Armed Dragon monster with an equal or lower level than it from your grave to your hand. You'll usually be using it for that latter effect, unless you want to just flex in front of your opponent with higher attack points. And the one archetypal trap we play is Armed Dragon Thunderbolt. You can target one Armed Dragon monster you control. It gains 1000 attack for each Armed Dragon monster in your grave with an equal or lower level than it and with different names from each other. Also, for the rest of the turn, your opponent takes no battle damage from its attacks. When it hits the grave, you can banish this card from your grave, then target one Armed Dragon spell in your grave and add it to your hand. This card is pretty helpful, not just for the power boost that it gives your Armed Dragon, but also for the small but useful recycle effect to get back one of your spell cards. Well, that's it for all the in-archetype stuff. The other useful spells and traps in here are 3 copies of Return of the Dragon Lords, very useful for bringing back our level 7, 1 Book of Eclipse, 1 Forbidden Chalice, and 2 copies of Polymerization for our fusion, which hardly comes up. And traps, 1 Lost Winds and 1 Imperm. For extra deck now, it's quite a generic but useful set of monsters that we run in here. Armed Dragons don't really have a lot of extra deck bosses because the main big bosses are our level 10 and level 10 white in our main deck. But to start off with, we have Armed Neos, our level 10 fusion that requires both Neos and any Armed Dragon monster. When special summoned, you can choose one Dragon monster in your grave and destroy all monsters your opponent controls with an equal or lower level than it. And when this card destroys a monster by battle, it gains the effect to tribute this card, then special summon one elemental hero fusion monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summon conditions. Pretty useful, but it's a shame because this card never came up once in my entire time with this deck. There was never a time when I had an Armed Dragon either in my hand or on the field and a Neos and a Polymerization to get into this guy. Ever. Like, at all. Very unfortunate, but oh well. Also, I can't put it to full use in here because I don't run any elemental hero fusions in here anyway. Our next armed boss is Dark Armed Dragon of Annihilation. This is a rank 7 Xyz, and if you have exactly 5 dark monsters in your grave, you can also Xyz summon this card by using one level 5 or higher dark dragon monster that you control as material. It allows you to detach one material from this card, then target one card your opponent controls, destroy it, then banish one card from your grave. Also, it can attack for the rest of the turn. I'm gonna be real with you guys, I brought this out once and never again. It's not worth it for real. I only have it in here to complete the archetype. Plus, you have to waste so much more material again to get to him. 5 dark monsters in the grave and 1 level 5 or higher on your field already. Don't do it to yourself. Skip this one. I just had to suffer for the stream. Moving on, we have some generic but again good support with our next rank 7 with Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. It can't be destroyed by card effects while it has material, and each time your opponent activates a card or effect, inflict 500 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves. Once per turn, as a quick effect, you can detach one material from this card, then target one Red Eyes normal monster in your grave and special summon it. We don't use this because we don't play Red Eyes in here. Anyways, this card is awesome for this deck. It literally just punishes your opponent for activating effects. It's a little toxic, honestly, but hey, I'm gonna give it a pass because this deck and archetype needs all the extra help that it can access and get. From there, I have one rank 7 number 11 Big Eye, one rank 7 Volifer Nergis, I think I said that correctly, and then for links, just one of each Nightmare monster with Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. One rank 3 Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, and 2 Borolo Dragons. These dudes are extra powerful, and I just feel like they just slide into this archetype and mingle well with them. I did have one Boral End Dragon in here, but I went broke trying to build this deck, so it's not in this current build. But if you do have the space, do go ahead and add it because that is a card that is very useful and will definitely come in handy. And that's the deck. Now onto its strengths and weaknesses. This deck's major strength is its ability to reach some insanely high numbers. The main deck monsters are also pretty powerful, with cards like Armed Thunder level 7 and onwards being upwards of 2400 plus attack, with their big boss level 10 having a beefy base 3000 attack and being able to power up to the max at 10,000 attack points if you really build it up. It excels in delivering the thunder with a powerful blow when given the chance. The major weaknesses of this deck is that it lacks protection and natural negates and disruptions, so that's why we run all of the generic support for our extra deck like Flare Metal Dragon and all the Nightmares and other rank 7s. Seriously, if you get stopped at any point in your climb up to your level 10, you just hit a dead end and basically have to stop. That was my experience most of the time, and man, it was so frustrating. This deck's consistency is also pretty abysmal. Our only low-level monsters in here are Armed Dragon level 3 and the one level 4, which is a bad starter card when going first. Every single one of the main deck Armed Thunders we have to run at 3 copies each. Level 3, 5, and 7 all at 3 each. Pile Armed Dragon, 3. With the exception of level 10, which we run at 2 at the risk of being a brick, and only one level 10 white because it's already a brick. Also, anytime our deck gets stopped from adding cards to our hand, or if it's prevented from special summoning, it's game over. Just give up. Like, for real, just give up, because you definitely ain't recovering unless you can turn it off somehow with this pure Armed Dragon build. It has a lot of weaknesses, from no protection even from your highest level monster to just keeping that climb going. I also feel like this deck just shoots itself in the foot a lot of the times, with having a decent effect followed by the most limiting thing that it can do to itself. For example, the level 4 letting you special summon your Armed Dragon level 5, but then saying that it can attack directly this turn. Or Thunderbolt letting you boost your Armed Dragon and then immediately following up with your opponent takes no battle damage. Or even the horrible Xyz boss that's already not worth bringing out for a simple pop, but then also going on to say to banish one card from your grave, and it also can attack for the rest of the turn. Like, I don't get it. You already need all the help that you can get. Why shoot yourself in the foot and hurt yourself like this even more? But even with all of that, this is a deck that I really don't hate. And I'm honestly finding it hard to hate because they're just so cool looking. I mean, have you seen Armed Dragon Thunder level 10? That guy is a beast! The cool factor of this deck's aesthetic definitely saves it from the absolute trash tier, even though it really should be in there. But anyways, after having some time to get used to this deck and using all of this as best as I can, time to see how we fare in some duels. Let's get to it. Okay, now this one is a little bit of a side duel, right? And the reason I call it a side duel is because nothing really happened too much in this duel. It was extremely one-sided. My opponent just bricked from the start, couldn't do anything, so I decided to just go off anyways. This is before I knew that they just absolutely couldn't do anything. So there will be a follow-up to this duel, as you guys will see in just a little bit. But from here, I'm going to be able to do the Armed Thunder thing, climbing from level 3 to level 5 to level 7, while having my Pile Armed Dragon on the field. For my level 7, we're going to go into our big boy Armed Thunder level 10, who's going to sit right there on the field. And from here, I just wanna take a moment here. From here, this is basically our end board with our current run. There's nothing else we can do after we reach Armed Thunder. That's basically the end of the line. That's the trail end of the entire thing. So we finish on Armed Thunder level 10 and Pile Armed Dragon, which is a little bit of a lackluster end board, especially considering our opponent could literally activate anything to just get these two boys off of the field. But yeah, not the strongest end board, but this is, you know, what I get for putting myself through a pure build of Armed Thunder. But anyway, our opponent is gonna go ahead. They're only gonna be able to activate Jurassic Growth. So from here, I get the idea. Okay, they're playing dinos. Cool. I'm gonna activate Armed Thunder Flash, get my level 3 on there. Level 3 is gonna go off, get into our level 5, and go straight into battle. And basically just go in for the full OTK, and that's it. That was it. It was extremely one-sided, but I wasn't really satisfied with that duel. I can't really call this like a great showcase of what this deck can do. So stay tuned for what's about to happen next. Okay, and then coming up here into the final duel of Armed Dragon Thunders. Now this is a continuation of a previous duel that I did have. Same opponent and everything, but this time it's not going to be as one-sided because this time they didn't brick. But anyway, we're going to go first. We're going to activate our Pyro Armed Dragon from our hand, which is going to allow us to just summon it onto outside of the field, and that's it. That is it. That's all we're going to be able to do. Passing over to our opponent's turn, they're going to activate the Fossil Dig. They're going to be able to get the Bayrock Dragon in the grave, and they're going to get Dinomorphia Diplos onto their side of the field. So I find out they're playing Dinomorphia here, which is pretty interesting because I haven't gone up against Dinomorpheus and I haven't played Dinomorpheus myself. It's one of those decks that I've kind of looked at from a distance, but maybe one day we'll see. But anyway, we do this entire climb. We go from our level 3 to our level 5 to our level 7, and then straight into our level 10. I love this guy so much. From here, I'm gonna activate the Return of the Dragon Lords, which is gonna get us our Armed Thunder level 7 from our grave. We're gonna activate the Lost Winds to stop our opponent's monster from really doing anything. Then from here, we're gonna Xyz summon back into our Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, who's gonna just sit nicely on our side of the field. Not gonna be able to do too much there, and then passing back over to our opponent's side of the field. From there, they're going to be able to activate their trap card, Dinomorphia Alert. Now, as is the nature of Dinomorphias, it requires you taking basically a beating, but like self-inflicted, essentially. And with all of these effects firing off at our opponent's side of the field, we're just going to be able to just burn them for quite a bit of life points. We've already got them with like minus 1,000 life points. And then from then on, Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon is just gonna keep popping off. So yeah, got it down to a fair bit, and all it's gonna take is just one clean swing. Now it's looking for the opportunity to land that blow. So from here, our opponent will be able to respond, getting into their Transcendosaurus on their side of the field from there, but that isn't gonna help their case because Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon just isn't here to play too many games. I'm not playing the game too much here because this boss is literally just sitting here doing all the work for me. So yeah, and on top of that, our opponent is just firing off with all these effects. So essentially, they just destroy themselves in this duel. They did the entire job for us. It's the combination of just Dinomorphia, all of their effects requiring you to reduce your life points, plus Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon on our side of the field is basically just a clean game. They already did half the life points for us, and we didn't really have to do too much. But hey, we got the Armed Thunders in there, I guess, for the main defense. So there you go. Okay, here is a bonus duel for you guys today. So this was... I think this was like either my very first or like my second Armed Dragon Thunder duel, and this is when I was really learning the deck. So we're gonna be going second here. So our opponent is gonna be playing Salamangreats. Now Salamangreats, I already know what this deck is capable of. For the most part anyway. It is a Cyberse deck. We're all about the Cynet, so it's all good. But they're gonna do what you do with Salamangreat. They're gonna be able to link summon straight away into their Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. Sunlight Wolf is gonna sit comfortably on their side of the field, and they're gonna activate the Sanctuary. Salamangreat Sanctuary is gonna fire off, allowing their Sunlight Wolf to go straight into another Sunlight Wolf. It's that whole, what's it called? The whole reincarnation link summon, whatever it was called in the anime. But yeah, our opponent is basically gonna have their turn. I'm looking at my hand here, and I'm like, okay, we have almost everything we need for like a combo start except our level 3. We literally don't have our level 3, so we really can't do a whole lot here. But we do have the Pyro Armed Dragon, which is going to be able to activate, sending out Armed Thunder to the grave, adding the Armed Dragon Flash. Armed Dragon Flash now is going to get us our level 3, which is going to allow us to go into our level 5, and then from our level 5 back into our level 7. So Armed Thunder level 5 will activate there, and then level 7 is going to come out onto the field. And the crazy part of all of this is that I was able to go uninterrupted doing all of this. I was extremely aware that at any point if this gets stopped, I'm basically screwed. Like, there's nothing that I can do. So from here, going off into our battle phase, attacking with our Pyro Armed Dragon, they're going to activate the Cyanide Back Door, which is going to fire off a whole bunch of different effects. They're going to be able to gain some life points, which is going to set us back a little bit, but we try to make the most of it. We use the Armed Dragon Blitz to get a second Pyro Armed Dragon onto the field to go into our Red Ice Flare Metal, because Red Ice Flare Metal Dragon really is going to help us out just a little bit more in this duel. We're already a little bit behind in the life points department, so anything that we can chip away is going to be extremely helpful. From here, I'll activate the Forbidden Chalice. Forgetting that Forbidden Chalice doesn't really, like, I mean, it a little bit of a goof up on my part there, because I didn't really need to activate it there. It's not like the Sunlight Wolf was posing too much of a threat to us, so negating its effect was kind of like a whatever thing. But anyway, showcasing our point exactly, the Sunlight Wolf is going to link off into our into our opponent's Salamangreat Heat Leo, who's going to be able to link summon again into another Heat Leo. So now getting the one-hit Heat Leo onto the field. They're going to be able to get another Heat Leo onto the field, I believe so, because that's exactly what's about to happen with Salamangreat and everything. We are able to chip off a little bit of life points from our opponent, but at this point, I kind of, like, the writing is kind of on the wall, and I'm like, okay, there's not really much we can do from here. They're powered up to the extreme. They got 2 Heat Leos. Red Ice Flare Metal Dragon is the only thing that's putting in work for us here. There's not much that we can do here. And from here, I'm basically a sitting duck. There's not really a whole lot we can do. And then from here, boom! We lose. We actually end up losing that game. So yeah, this is an example of, first of all, we don't win every single duel here on this series or anything like that. It is the highlights, yes, but again, it's showcasing the deck in action, showcasing its strengths and weaknesses, and this duel was very much a showcase of where Armed Thunders kind of fall apart. They can get the attack points onto their field, they can get the big monsters onto their field, but they can't really build too much of a defense because they don't have any negates, no destruction or anything like that outside of their Armed Thunder level 10, and even then it's pretty easy to play around. So I just wanted to showcase that side of the duel just to show you guys that it's not all highlights on here, but yeah, strengths and weaknesses, you know, just for consideration. But yeah, that's gonna do it for our final duel. And that's it. That's gonna do it for this round of Archetype Arsenal. Now, just some final closing thoughts. Again, I do not hate this deck. Quite the opposite. I just wish that it could do more on its own as an archetype. The concept is cool as heck, climbing from your level 3 to level 5 to level 7 and then into your big level 10 boss. It's just, in practice, there's not much else surrounding that game plan because it's so easy to stop and just freeze you in your tracks. But the monsters themselves are cool, their effects work, and heck, even the Armed Dragon Xyz that I had some words for earlier is a good card in other decks, but just not in its own, which is kind of funny, but it is what it is, I guess. But anyways, I very much enjoyed learning and playing this deck with everyone on stream. Sorry this video took a little bit longer to get out. I've been waiting on a lot of commission stuff for a while, but we're finally here with this one at last. Expect more of these episodes to come soon, and definitely vote on the next archetype that you want to see for the next episode of Archetype Arsenal. But until then, I will see you guys in the duel arena. Okay, let's do this. Oh, straight into our level 10. No way. No way. We're just gonna go straight into our level 10. Oh my gosh, that's the easiest time we've had so far with that. All right, rank 10. Are we going to a... No, we don't have any rank 10s. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's it. That's the dead end. if they draw a card, then it's actually more of a -3 for you. Oh my gosh, this deck! I can't with this deck.